Welcome back to WaterparkRanger's Let's Play Pikmin 2. Last episode we returned to the Valley of Repose to actually explore the area besides just the tutorial, and we encountered a dungeon after amassing a 70 Pikmin-strong army. Now, in this dungeon we have snow bulborbs. These new enemies are basically dwarf red bulborbs, but even weaker, surprisingly. And yes, they do tend to be found in snowy environments, though this is not always the case. Anyway, they were defeated very easily with throws to the top, and just like that, we got a treasure as soon as we came into the dungeon. Treasures are very frequent, very easy to come by in dungeons. This one being the citrus lump. Looks like the oranges I eat every day. Yeah, I commonly eat oranges. Random fact about me, I suppose. And they're carrying back that bottle cap, so we can have a look at this next hole. No, this is not a completely new dungeon. The ship will explain for me. This hole appears to be quite deep. My sensors indicate more treacherous terrain ahead. Louis, you do recall that you can adjust the camera with L, R, and Z, correct? Better remember that. Your expression suggests that you do. Excellent, then approach the hole and press A to enter it. Actually, he didn't explain it as well as I thought he would. That's actually just the way down to the next floor of the dungeon, because this is sub-level 1, that will take us down to sub-level 2. Simple as that. Very basic stuff. And the Pikmin have brought back that bottle cap that we easily collected. And it's 7-Up. How awesome is that? And guess what it's called? Quenching Emblem. You gotta love some of the names they give this stuff in this game. Like, on one hand, I loved all the inventive-looking parts from the first game, but on the other hand, and by the way, each sub-level has its own map, which is really helpful, believe it or not. On the other hand, though, like, you get a lot more humor out of the names of the treasures in this game. So there's good and bad stuff about both games. Actually, no. Bad isn't a good way of saying it. There are things about either one of the games that there are certain aspects that are better about both games. I think that's the best way of putting it. And it also reconciles my relationship between the two games, because now I don't have to pick which one is better. They both have their strengths. Personally, I love the fact that they have dungeons in this game. They get a lot. They get very fun later on. And they're actually kind of the main draw of me playing this game. Again, because they're actually randomly generated. Not like... The early ones not so much, like this one. It is inconceivable that such an immense object has been buried here for so long. The design of the outer shell resembles the surface of the planet as seen from space. Perhaps this can be used for something other than salvage. Mysterious, huh? But how will we ever lift it? I fear that even 100 red Pikmin will be unable to lift it. Yeah, our Pikmin are weak sauce. We have some weak sauce Pikmin. And they are not going to be able to lift that giant treasure right there. So, actually, we're deep enough that the snow has receded, because it's warmer down here, so it's not so cold anymore. And plants are starting to grow, so really nice attention to detail. Like, in some respects, this game is really realistic. Like, the way that they describe the functions of each enemy biologically in the Piklopedia, it's all really legit stuff for the most part, except for some of the more far-fetched things. But it's actually explained really well. It's a really complete, completely expressed universe that they created that's super undervalued, I think. Like, the Pikmin franchise needs more attention, needs more love. Come on, Nintendo. Astounding! A flower blooms in a cave deep beneath the snowy landscape. Clearly it is warmer down here than above. Look, the Pikmin are restless. They look as if they yearn to be tossed into the flower. You might recognize that as a candy pop bud from the first game. They're very important. Olimar said at the end of the first that they were the next step in Pikmin evolution. So, purple ones. Well, we've seen red, yellow, and blue flowers before. So what's up with these eggplant-colored sprouts? It's purple Pikmin! Entirely new Pikmin! These are really cool. I mean, just look at what a lovely shade of purple that is. And they seem to be making large dust clouds. They weigh quite a lot. Amazing! A purple Pikmin! It has hair, and is quite stocky. It seems very heavy and strong. This kind of Pikmin was not mentioned in your report, Olimar. It must be an entirely new type. Transforming Pikmin by tossing them into flowers? Intriguing. Perhaps there are others. Did I say tossing instead of tossing? That was hilarious. Anyway, yes, there are others, because clearly we already pulled 3, Research Pod. Clearly you are blind. You are a machine. You should not be able to see us. You don't have any visible eyes. Now that I think about that, that's really unsettling. So yeah, we have new Pikmin. Purple Pikmin. They are much slower, but that's not their only ability. They are also 10 times stronger than any other kind of Pikmin. That also means they weigh 10 times as much. By the strength, I mean they're able to carry 10 times more than other Pikmin. Also, they have Brawn in battle. Every time you throw them at an enemy, there's a chance that they'll stun it for a long amount of time, actually. So purple Pikmin are incredibly rigged in battle. As a result, I'm going to be revealing the first thing about the special run that I'm doing of this game. We are not going to be using purple Pikmin for battles. We're going to be keeping them out of battles and just fighting enemies without them. Because, believe it or not, I've gotten very used to just using them and no other Pikmin for fights, even when there are certain enemies that seem designed to make you want to use other colors of Pikmin. But we're only going to be using them for things like this, where we need heavy lifting because there's something that takes more than 100 to get past. And for a particular boss we're going to encounter in this game that requires purples, and there's no way around it, you need purples. So we are still going to be getting purples, and we're going to be getting a lot, because you need a lot for a certain thing late in the game. But we are not going to be using them for fights except for the one time where you absolutely must have them. And I brushed against a clover right there, so, aha, now we have clovers in our Piklopedia. And the Pikmin have arrived with a treasure. This is no normal treasure. It is the Spherical Atlas that has a slightly different chime in the background than normal treasures. There is a device resembling a microchip embedded inside the sphere. Retrieving data. Error. I can only decode a portion of the data, but I did retrieve new geographic charts. I will input this data into my planetary database and name it the Sphere Chart. Press start/pause to contact me and access the Explorer kit on the radar screen with L. Now that we have this new data, you should explode the decoded territory. Explode?! You should explore the decoded territory tomorrow. Yeah, we're gonna blow up whatever's on that map. We're gonna blow up half the freaking planet. We don't need treasures. So yeah, this is the exploration kit. It's a list of all the different treasures that have special abilities. In this case, this one unlocks a new area for us to explore. And this is also something new. A geyser. It's really cool, the animation. Astounding! Water is shooting out of this geyser with incredible force. Sensors indicate it has enough power to launch you into the air. Approach it and press A to try. So up here in the dungeon roof, there's a light. So clearly, the geyser can launch us back up there, and we can escape from the dungeon. If you can approach it without any Pikmin and get on, and the Pikmin will immediately leave and follow you. Unless they're planted in the ground. If any Pikmin are planted in the ground when you leave a dungeon or leave a floor, those Pikmin will die, actually. Kinda sad. So just make sure all your Pikmin are plucked and not buried in the ground before you go down to the next floor. Always important. And so the cave is complete because we got all three of its treasures. Each cave/dungeon, they're called caves, but they really function more like dungeons, as per the standard definition of a dungeon in a game. They're randomly generated to a certain extent, like enemies will shuffle around. There will always be the same number of enemies, usually, and same type on each floor. It just depends exactly where you counter them. Also, the way that each floor is designed usually shifts around, except for the Emergence Cave and boss battle floors. You successfully returned to the planet's surface. Excellent decision-making, gentlemen. We must celebrate your first successful spelunking expedition. You've gathered a large amount of data that needs in-depth analysis. Well, I love analysis, fine with that. I shall send a report back to the President tonight detailing your progress. And because we got the sphere chart, we also get this message. Alamar Louis, since you will explore a new area tomorrow, today's work is done. What? You still want to work? Unacceptable. You may not realize it, but you are exhausted. You should take a much-needed rest, as you have all the time you need to collect treasure. That's right, there are infinite days in this game. Haste makes waste, so take it slow and steady. Well, there's truth in that, I suppose. Now, something I'm going to mention just in this ending cutscene. If you want to get more purple Pikmin, sure, you're allowed to go back into the Emergence Cave and get more, but those flowers will disappear after you have 20 purple Pikmin in your party. After that, you're going to have to find other places to find those flowers. And then if your purple Pikmin counter ever drops below 20, then you can go back there and those flowers will be available. There's very specific programming that determines what candy pot buds will be accessible where and when. And I guess I'll try and mention it to you as we go along, which ones appear where and when. Although I'm not sure I have all information, because I'm not like a huge expert on that or anything. In fact, I don't even know like much about too many of the treasures. Anyway, our Pikmin population has gone up, as you can see. No deaths so far. That's the Z chart, in case you were wondering. Baby steps first, Olimar. Plan well and don't worry about me. Our days with Happy Hocknate savings and alone, after all. Besides, there's nothing left to repossess, so ha! Aw, man, the president's so awesome, isn't he? Anyway, we'll be exploring more stuff next episode, so until then, hate to keep you in suspense, but I'll see you then.